Imagine this scenario. You're on a brand new state-of-the-art plane. Takeoff is routine, just seconds in, and then something goes catastrophically wrong. We're talking about an event that unfolds so incredibly fast, it's almost, well, hard to process. Today we're doing a deep dive into the Air India Boeing 787 crash in Ahmedabad. Our mission, for you listening, is to really unpack this incredibly rapid sequence of events and look at the initial findings, all based directly on the sources you shared with us. It's definitely a stark reminder, isn't it? How even the most advanced technology can face these, unforeseen challenges, turning something totally routine into the unthinkable, just like that.
Absolutely. And what makes this so striking, really, is the aircraft itself, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. I mean, this is a marvel of modern aviation technology. It's packed with redundancy, sophisticated fly-by-wire systems, all designed specifically to prevent catastrophic failures. So for an incident like this event immediately flags something critical, something complex that investigators are now trying hard to understand.
Yeah, it really does challenge our assumptions about modern aircraft safety. So, the flight took off from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad. Okay, let's try and unpack this timeline because it is just unbelievably tight. The speed is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. So picture this. It's just 17 seconds after the plane lifted off the runway, T plus 17 seconds. The crew are probably just settling into their initial climb. Then suddenly, Air India Flight AI 171 just plummets. It lost a shocking 625 feet, almost instantaneously. And it wasn't just like a dip. It was a real plunge from its climb path. So what does that kind of immediate dramatic altitude loss signify, especially that early in a flight?
Well, losing that much altitude, 625 feet, in such a short space of time, literally seconds after getting airborne, it signals an extreme, likely unrecoverable emergency, no question. In aviation terms, it means the aircraft went from climbing, gaining height, to suddenly descending rapidly. That points to a profound loss of lift or maybe loss of control authority, or potentially both. And you're right, investigators are laser focused on this initial period, specifically the first 36 seconds of the accident flight, because figuring out what exactly happened in those first few moments is just paramount.
And okay, here's something even more critical, I think, for understanding the crew's perspective right at the start. Before that huge 625-foot drop, the pilots had already transmitted a Mayday call. That's the universal signal for a dire emergency, right?
Yeah.
Plus, get this, at the very moment the plane started that plunge, its landing gear was still extended, still down. So what are those two things, the early Mayday, the gear still being down? Tell us about what the crew knew and just how early this crisis unfolded.
The Mayday call is hugely significant. Making that call when they were barely off the ground, it shows the crew knew instantly that they were facing a grave immediate threat. They recognized they were in serious trouble before the aircraft even started that dramatic descent. And the landing gear, yeah, that's key, still laying down confirms they were absolutely in the very initial phase of climb out. It tells us they literally didn't even have time to complete the basic action of retracting the gear, which normally happens very quickly after takeoff. So the catastrophic event, whatever it was, unfolded before they could even get to that step. It makes the sudden loss of control not just immediate, but frankly bewildering. It really begs the question, doesn't it? What could have been happening in those first few seconds to prompt such an urgent distress call, even before the plane's behavior became so obviously catastrophic?
And the end came terrifyingly quickly after that. Within just 30 seconds of the wheels leaving the ground, which means only about 13 seconds after that first big altitude loss, the Dreamliner crashed into the BJ Medical College hostel. It resulted in a devastating fiery impact. It's just such a tragic compression of time.
It really is. It underscores the incredibly rapid-fire nature of this whole catastrophe. The entire event, from takeoff to impact, happened in roughly 1 minute, 60 seconds. But that critical phase, from the moment it lost that 625 feet to the final impact, that took only about 13 seconds. Just think about that. 13 seconds. From a sudden crisis indication to total disaster, it's less time than, I don't know, waiting for a kettle to boil. Every single system response, every possible crew action had to occur or fail to occur within that tiny window. It just completely redefines rapid in the most awful way. It shows an unbelievably short time frame for anyone to react or for any backup systems to potentially engage and recover the situation.
Right. So given this unbelievably fast sequence, I mean, how do investigators even begin to figure out why it happened? They must be looking at several potential causes to explain this kind of speed and severity, surely. What's on the table?
Well, according to the source material we have, the investigation is focusing on a few key areas. Potential engine failure is one. Also, a malfunction in the hydraulic system. That's critical for controlling the plane. And they're looking at issues with the emergency power systems, specifically the ram air turbine, the RAT. If you think about the big picture, these are absolutely fundamental systems for keeping an airplane flying and under control. Any major failure in these, especially right after takeoff, can be catastrophic.
Can you maybe elaborate slightly on why each of those is so critical?
Sure. So engine failure, particularly if it's uncontained or happens at a critical moment like liftoff, isn't just about losing thrust. It can damage other parts of the aircraft, and it affects the electrical power and hydraulic power generated by that engine. A hydraulic system failure. Well, that's your muscles, essentially. Hydraulics move the flight control surfaces, the ailerons on the wings, the elevators on the tail, the rudder. Lose hydraulic power, and you could lose the ability to steer the aircraft, to control its pitch, roll, or yaw. And the RRAT, the ram air turbine, that's like the ultimate backup for electrical power. It's a small propeller that drops into the airflow if all main and auxiliary power is lost. It generates just enough emergency power for essential flight instruments and, crucially, some flight controls. So if there was an issue preventing the RRAT from deploying or working correctly after another power failure, well, that could lead to a near total loss of control. Any one of these failing, or perhaps some complex, cascading combination of failures, that could potentially explain such a rapid and unrecoverable event, even on a modern jet like the 787.
Wow, it's still just. It's hard to process the speed of it all. It really hammers home how quickly a normal takeoff can become an absolute nightmare if critical systems fail. We've seen how basically 1 minute can contain an entire tragedy, with all the crucial moments, the failures, the potential decisions, all compressed into mere seconds. For you, listening, it's a powerful, if sobering, lesson about physics and the very complex dance between technology and aerodynamics.
And it leaves you with a pretty stark question, doesn't it? What does it really tell us about this complex interplay between highly advanced technology, all the built-in redundancies, and just the raw, unforgiving physics of flight? What does it mean when a state-of-the-art aircraft, a Dreamliner, crashes within its first minute in the air? It's a very sobering thought. And it really highlights why the pursuit of aviation safety, of understanding exactly what went wrong, is so constant, so relentless. We have to learn from these incredibly rapid, devastating incidents. It forces you to consider not just what failed,